Welcome to the next part of this video on Dover Beach by Matthew Arnold. Just as I promised in my earlier video, the link to the second video is provided in the description section, and make sure that you read or go through the first part before moving on to the second part. Here we will directly discuss about the third and the fourth stanzas, which are equally important, and the third stanza is another of my personal favorites of this poem, Dover Beach. And not only is this important, but you will see that what makes the poet to discuss the grief, the pain that is associated with the loss of faith and belief that he experiences along with the other people of the Victorian era. Okay, so without much ado, let's start with the third stanza. The sea of faith was once too at the full, and the round earth's shore lay like the folds of a bright girdle furled. But now I only hear its melancholy, long, withdrawing roar, retreating to the breath of the night wind down to the vast edges drear and naked shingles of the world. So this is what is the third stanza all about. The third stanza talks of the sea of faith. The sea of faith refers to the human faith, the religious faith, and the faith in the fellow beings that once covered the earth like the sea water. So here, what is the poet telling that I would like to add on to this is that the sea of faith that once existed among mankind gradually vanished, and the faith that can refer to the trust, humanity of religion, kindness, sympathy, spiritualism, and so on. In this sense, the whole picture, which was calm and pleasant, as you must have noticed in the first stanza, can be considered as the sea of faith. It was calm, there was no dispute. So it is this sea of faith was intact, which can be considered as the sea of faith, as I said. But suddenly the night wind, the industrialization, the advent of science, technology that came in, murdered this peace and the spirituality that existed during the Victorian period. And that is something that has shattered not only the poet but many like-minded people. If you notice the poem, The Dartling Thrush by Thomas Hardy, which is there in the ISC syllabus too, you will see that this same conflict, this same motion of this oscillating movement of the poet's mind and the others, where they do not know whether to believe in the stick on to their old beliefs or whether to accept the new changes that are coming. They find it extremely difficult to understand what is happening. That is echoed in Matthew Arnold's Dover Beach also. So the firm attachment of faith in this world made everything easy and solved many problems, and the people were united. There was meaning in life. But presently, what is happening? Presently, the speaker or the poet hears its sadness, the longings and the roars of the pulling away, the pebbles, the shores, the belief, everything, the sea. There is nothing, but it is all drawing back, it is retreating, and the night wind is hovering over the sky. So the retreating movement, the drawing back, pulling back is recurred very frequently in this poem. Here also we have this word. See, it is there, retreating to the breath, withdrawing. The chill night wind whistling over the desolate beach with dull edges of the cliffs. And that is the scenario. It is completely not conducive to belief, not conducive to anything that can be called pleasant. What remains are the naked stones which have been pulled out of the earth by the tide. This is very important, of the night wind down the vast edges, drear, and the naked shingles of the world. These two lines are very important, because in these lines the readers are aware of the fearful picture of the underlying nakedness of the modern world. The naked shingles hints at the idea that when faith is lost, there is no divine delight to clothe us. And you know what reminds me when I read this phrase, the naked shingles? It reminds me of this Swinburne's remark that the clothes are well enough, but where has the body gone? And so the pebbles are naked after the recedence of the water. So now we'll move on to the fourth stanza. It is characterized by a feeling of escapism, as if by just staring outside, by staring or appreciating the French coast, the poet and his beloved can escape this crisis. He asks his beloved to remain true to each other, to one another, for the world which seems to lie before us like a land of dreams. In the following lines, the speaker or the poet continues to tell that the world of beliefs that there are two interpretations which you must have seen, that I have explained here. One is that the world of beliefs which they had lived through, that was dreaming, that was something real, something tangible, which they would love to hold on to. But with the advent of science and technology, it is shattered. And another thing is that due to the development of science and technology, industrialization setting in, many wars being fought, and the face of the earth changing very rapidly, many old environment have changed. Many have appeared, many now appeared polished, they appear dreamlike. So there can be two meanings. You can interpret it along these lines quite clearly. Because one thing in literature is that if you interpret the poem or any story or prose in your words, and you give proper justification for your explanation, you're bound to score marks. Okay, so various, so beautiful, so new, hath really neither joy nor love nor light, nor certitude nor peace nor help for pain, and we are here as on a darkling plain, swept with confused alarms of struggle and flight, where ignorant armies clash by night. So there is no certainty, there is no peace, nor help for pain, because people are selfish, people have become self-centered, there is loss of companionship, and we are here on a darkling plain. There is growing darkness all around, and we are here, all entangled. There is confused alarms of struggle and flight. It becomes a cacophony. Life has become a cacophony of turmoil in which we are all swallowed. We are all deep down into it, just like the swallowing of the black hole, where there is no return. This hints at the growing acceptance of science and technology that has made human beings to struggle and indulge in endless wars, spreading nothing but despair and hopelessness. There is a kind of darkness that surrounds the human destiny as they clash with each other, because they are ignorant, believing the false notions of science and technology, interpreting it on their own terms in a wrong way. That is creating a sense of primitivism and savagery, and the only beacon of the interpersonal love that can light the way. So only companionship is what promises some kind of a ray of hope. Nothing else is there that can assure us of any kind of hope, any kind of relief. So there is all darkness all around, and the poem here ends on a pessimistic note. Okay, so now here I am going to talk about the form and content, the themes, the literary devices, because I have already spoken about the socio-cultural and the intertextual context earlier. So the primary literary devices used here are assonance, alliteration, enjambment, allusion, pathetic fallacy, symbolism, simile, and imagery. Assonance is the repetition of the vowel sounds that in the same line, such as hath really neither joy nor love nor light. Alliteration is seen in to lie before us like a land of dreams. Enjambment's best example I would like to give you, where the thought moves on to the next line, is and we are here on the darkling plain, swept with confused alarms of struggle and flight. Next is your allusion. Allusion is where the reference to some indirect reference to a person of belief. Remember, while in the first video I was talking about Sophocles, that is one allusion, and another reference or allusion is you can talk about is the third stanza, the sea of faith. Next is pathetic fallacy. It is a figure of speech in which the objects are attributed to the human emotions, like listen, you hear the grating roar of pebbles which the waves draw back and fling. Then another is eternal note of sadness. These are pathetic fallacy. The human beings experience these emotions and they have been attributed to nature. We can also talk of symbolism. The sea of faith, which symbolizes faith in God. The tide leaving the shore symbolizes the loss of faith, retreating of faith. Simile is comparison, as you can see that the world is compared to the land of dreams. Which line you want to see? It is there in the fourth stanza itself. To one another, for the world which seems to lie before us like a land of dreams. I have identified this for you also. Another is the imagery. This is the final one that I am talking about before I move on to the next topic. The imagery is the tide is full, the moon lies fair. The readers can use their five senses to perceive the picture, the scenario all around. So the readers are totally engrossed while analyzing it. The sea meets the moon blanched land. These are some references. Okay, now I would like to talk about the form and the content. The sea of faith was once too at the full, because I'm starting here at the very outset with the sea of faith, because it is very important. It lays like the folds of the bright girdle furled. The simile compares the sea to a girdle. It describes the tide as being full, so the waters surround the shore. It is curious that Arnold intentionally uses a girdle, that is an intimate undergarment, to represent the tide. It is one of the moments in the poem when the description of the land alludes to romanticism. This is something that is remarkable. Another is, for the world which seems to lie before us like a land of dreams. Here Arnold compares the world to a land of dreams. It hints that the world is full of felicities and your illusions, and what seems to be fantastic, what seems to be beautiful, hath really neither joy nor love nor light. This simile not only serves as a comparison but also the insufficiency. So this continuous usage of metaphors and similes throughout marks the poem remarkably different from the other poems that were written during that time, that marks the crisis or the loss of faith. He also frequently uses the metaphorical language in Dover Beach and other poems. You can say The Scholar Gypsy, then Margarita, as well as his other poems, to compare the life to a sea. And in his poetry, he proposes that these various modes of water actually annihile, E-N-I-S-L-E. It means to alienate humanity. Annihile or alienate humanity, and that mankind has a deep desire to gain a connection with the surrounding world. So probably they can go to any extent, humanity can go to any extent to survive in this world, and that is something that one needs to be aware of. Okay, now the final topic that I would like to talk to you is about these themes. You must have noticed in the very first video I had made some circles where the themes are highlighted. See, human isolation, faith, religion and water. These are the primary themes that are highlighted here, and I'm going to talk about them briefly before I end this poem, the discussion on the poem. The sea of faith was once too great and full. So this is something that is remarkable. The sea of faith, it was once too full, and the shores. So the relevance to the withdrawing of the faith, the retreating of the notion is highlighted quite well here. Then there is this human isolation and sadness. The human isolation and sadness is prevalent throughout the poem. Some of the highlighted parts are like it is relevant to the Victorian period. Some of the highlighted parts, the naked shingles of the world. Okay, melancholy became a characteristic of the spirit of the Victorian period, and this is which you must remember. This was in large part of the huge cultural and the social shift at the beginning of the era. Many poets and writers of the time did not know what to make of such huge drastic shifts towards the industrialized world. They were at a loss, because in this industrial world was being paid for this terrible price of human happiness. Everything was being lost, and they had no way to escape from this. In the light of these changes and views, they suffered from anxious sense of something lost. Then there is a reference to your the human misery, the sadness and the depression. which is something that is very hard, that hits us hard. This in large part accounts for much of Arnold's mood and feeling of sadness throughout. The water continuously washes the face of the shingles, washes the face of the pebbles, as if it is trying to cover up the loss of the faith, the loss of the belief that has already taken place during the Victorian period, but it is not being able to do. Religion, Bible was questioned with the advent of Charles Darwin's Origin of Species and Freud's theories that challenge the sexuality, that brought about questions of sexuality, challenged the Bible. The Bible was being read in different way, and man as God's son, the entire belief of that was totally shattered. So this is what your poem is all about. I hope to have covered all the important sections in this poem, and you don't have to look for anywhere for writing your answers. The main aim of this channel is to not so that you people don't get distracted while writing your answers and framing your answers, and just at one sitting you can complete an entire text thoroughly and carefully, because everything is at your fingertips. I hope you like it. And one customary reminder, which is also very important because we are heading to expand our family, of which you are also a part. Please do like, comment, subscribe, and share this channel, which is very important, so that not only you but many the other people who are very eager to join the classes or eager to look forward to these and kind of analysis, they can also get in touch. They are not deprived. Please do help me to reach out to them. Okay, and after that, also if you have, after this discussion also, if you have any doubts, feel free to ask in the comment section. This channel is also available in Telegram. The link is given in the descriptive section. And that's it for today. Before we head on to the next poem, thanks for supporting. Happy learning.